Blessing. Hailing from the township of KwaMashu, South Africa, your early life was marked by apartheid struggles and political unrest, fueling your creative expression. Despite the oppressive conditions, townships became vibrant centers of community and resilience, fostering music, art, and activism during the struggle against the apartheid era. Your passion for music ignited at an early age, leading you from choirs in elementary to forming a rap group in 5th grade. Your talent gained traction, and your first debut solo album earned the prestigious Album of the Year award at the Original Material Awards in South Africa, solidifying your position as a rising star in the music scene. Your musical journey expanded as you teamed up with Saul Good to create Part-Time Cooks, making waves in the Korean hip-hop scene and becoming the first non-Korean act to sign with a Korean label. However, the pandemic brought challenges, prompting a family move to the United States and a temporary pause for the Part-Time Cooks. As a songwriter, you take pride in your ability to craft impactful music, reflecting introspection, personal experiences, and social commentary. Your creative freedom to express continues to have an impact, but what I want to know is, what role has creativity played in shaping your sense of purpose and direction in life?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's good to be here, kind of connect with you. I know we've been talking back and forth for a while, and it's just good to sit down and kind of share together. And yeah, just talking about that question, it gets me thinking to the fact that like purpose and meaning, like for me, creativity is a lot more than that. It even goes back before I found myself and found my purpose. I was having to be creative and solving problems in just my day-to-day life growing up, I often make a joke, like my kids today, I've got 2 kids. I got a son and a daughter, and they're young, 6 and 4. They don't understand what it's like to struggle. You know what I mean? They don't understand what it's like to figure stuff out. My son is 6. By the age of 6, I was catching a school bus an hour from my house to school by myself at like 5 in the morning, Mm-hmm. And so those kind of struggles or those kind of opportunities to figure stuff out, you had to be creative a lot of times with things that you do. So for me, it was a way of life, being creative. We'll get into like my story and where I grew up and stuff, but a funny story comes to mind, like even playing soccer and going to people's houses where they're building like their house and the house isn't quite finished. You go look for some bricks, you get the bricks and you make little goalposts with the bricks, So like you had to figure it out, and then you see the soccer on TV, you see how they play. You want to know how to make a soccer ball. You don't have a soccer ball. All right, cool. You go to like Publix, like a grocery store, you get a whole bunch of plastic bags and you scrunch them up. Like I'm talking 50 plastic bags all scrunched up into like a ball, man. And you're playing soccer on the street, barefoot, bust your toes up.
That's what you would do?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
With bricks as goals. So like, that's what creativity has been, it's been a very motivating thing, but also just like a constant way of life. Being creative and figuring out ways that are unconventional to solve problems.
Oh yeah. And that's going back to creativity. It's besides the problem solving too. I mean, just kind of coming from where you come from in South Africa. And how do you pronounce it? I butchered it.
Apartheid.
Okay, can you explain that a little bit for people who kind of don't know?
Let me have you say it first. Let me hear you say
it. It's apartheid.
There we go. There we go.
I get name anxiety sometimes where I just like overthink it.
No, it's all good. It's funny. I make fun of Americans who say apartheid, apartheid the whole time. But it's all good. So I'm from South Africa, in Durban. The town is a lot like here. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, people call it the California of Africa. It's got avocados, sunshine 24/7, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and that kind of stuff. And I was born in the 80s in South Africa. And that was an interesting time because we had the apartheid government. That government was the ruling party, was a minority government. So the minority government of about 10% of the people in the country ruled the entire country with a system that kind of left the other 80% out. And so what happened is when the system came into play, they kind of moved all the blacks, Indians, and in South Africa, we call them colored, even though in America, that's kind of controversial term. But in South Africa, colored is an actual race, as how we refer to mixed people. And so those people got moved out of the cities. Then the white people got the city, they got the suburbs. And then we were forced into kind of settlements called townships, which are just like forced geographic areas where black people live. And so growing up in that time was an interesting time.
How old were you when that was kind of going on?
It ended when I was about 9.
Okay.
Yeah, so it ended when I was about 4, but the first democratic elections took place when I was about 9. So there was like quite a time where we're still kind of living under that. And during this time, I would say, to bring it back to creativity, it played a big part in expression as well, because it was always around me. Like if you ask anybody about South Africa, yes, we were an oppressed people. Yes, we had like difficulties of segregation, and we had tough times of not really being allowed to participate in the economy. But everywhere you went in South Africa, it's just hustling, bustling, music, dance, culture, people making businesses like out of like shipping containers or out of the side of your house. You see this window here, you'd open the window up and you'd sell something. But not only would you sell something, you'd have a big hi-fi system, music playing, people gathered around, drinking.
Positive energy up here.
Just whatever we could, whatever we could do. That's how it was. If you go to a township in South Africa now, a lot of people will refer to it as dangerous, but a lot of people will refer to it as just lively. You know what I mean? Like people making the best out of their situations. It was just a good time. It was a good time. Obviously, you saw some things, very horrific things, very violent things. But as a kid, it was just part of growing up.
And was the development of townships, was it always kind of lively and starting that way? Or did it have like a gradual kind of turn into it?
Well, it's hard to comment because I wasn't around in the beginning in the like 50s and stuff.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, it has been, because we've got music that we listened to even back then, or we've got like dates and stuff that we commemorate even in the 60s, where people were mobilizing, people were doing things, people were rebelling, people were making music. I mean, some really famous musicians, even in the States, you might know Miriam Makeba, you might know Ladysmith Black Mambazo. These are all bands that were kind of around early back then. And so the vibe has always been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that where your start into kind of the arts came about too? Just kind of being submerged in all of the culture?
Yeah. So, an interesting story is my mother's mother was a Sangoma, which is a traditional healer. And she was also a kind of apostolic. That's a denomination of Christianity. Like she was a bishop or a church leader.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like
a head of the church, like a pastor.
Like a pastor, yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, well, like leading sermons on like a Sunday sort of thing, or
yeah. She had her own congregation.
Okay, yeah.
So the apostolic church is kind of like charismatic, So it's sing, dance, beats, but. Now imagine mixing the Christianity, like how you have black churches here, and how you like see them on TV. They're like dancing and like singing and really like going for it.
Yeah,
they have also the element of like traditional African influence, the drum, the beats, because the Western churches are like, oh Lord, my God, like it's very mellow, like, but African churches are not. African churches, they get down, and so that was my grand's church. So coming back to your question, I mean, it's been an expression or art has been part of my life since then because I was born into that. I used to bang the drum. I used to blow this like trumpet made out of like tin, the tin that some people have on their roofs. You kind of beat that up, roll it up, make a little trumpet, and we call it upopopo, and you just kind of blow this thing. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
As a little beatboxer there, so it's always been part of.
Just around your family growing up, and it was just kind of music was always around, just
it was always there. My dad had a record player, and I mean, that's how I knew Ray Charles. That's how I knew Dobie Gray. That's how I knew Dolly Parton. That's how I knew Dixie Chicks.
Oh, wow. So you had a big melting pot from Ray Charles, Dolly Parton. Those are kind of complete opposites, but I mean, it's good music.
That's how I knew Michael Jackson. That's how I knew all these random artists that you think of now and be like, how does he know Dixie Chicks all the way in South Africa? But my dad had collections. You know, my dad just had whatever he found, put it on the vinyl, like put it on the record player, and that's it. We'd play, we'd scratch it up, we'd do whatever. So
yeah, and I want to harp on the fact that the internet, not even a thing, not even really kind of talked about or anything. So this has all just been word of mouth and just the popularity of just American music kind of making the wave all the way to where you guys are with records.
Yeah, and some of it is just grabbing whatever records you could find.
Okay.
At the time. Some of it is just like whatever's around, you take it, and that's what you have.
Just kind of looking at the album cover, like this looks cool, and then you see it and you like it.
Yeah, and then from there, if you like it, then you start finding out how to get more. You know,
okay,
how we used to collect music back in the 90s. So that was my dad. My dad was a dancer. My mom was a dancer. They did a bit of ballroom dancing together. My grandmother was a singer. Who else in my family? My family's, they just all love arts. And so it was part of me.
Yeah, it's not only art, it's just like creative expression to begin with. Yeah, I mean, because I know some families who have the arts in their family, but a lot of it's very closeted. A lot of it's just, oh, I'm an artist, but I have my day job, or I'm an artist, but I don't really talk about it too much. So this seems like it was very encouraged for you in from the start.
Yeah, it was a very much so. I'm Zulu. It's my heritage, my culture in South Africa.
Zulu.
Yeah, Zulu. So
I'm gonna try pronouncing everything correct.
Nice. I go for it. I like that.
Zulu. Okay.
Zulu. Yeah. So the Zulu people, you know, we came down kind of the east of Africa.
Uh-huh.
So if you think of like people here, they know Swahili, they know Kenyan people like the Maasai, they know people in Tanzania, and so those people, as they migrated south, they eventually went into all the southern African countries. And Zulu is one of those descendants of the Nguni people. And so bringing it back to your points here is that I had music, the drum, expression all around me. I mean, everything that the people where I'm from do has got some kind of music to it. Everything. I mean, people protest. They make drums. They make music with the instruments that they're carrying to protest, whether it be a machete, whether it be a like what do you call those picket cards?
Like a fence, picket fence,
picket signs,
picket signs, yeah.
Picket signs. Whatever it is, they'll make music out of it. So it's like with your feet, and you're just like
their voice.
You know what I mean? It's not like listen to us, please. It's like, hey, get the fuck out of here, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like very musical. So you can't escape that.
Yeah.
It's part of you. You go to a soccer game, the fans are singing. They're not just shouting. They're not just whistling. They're singing songs. They're making the songs up on the spot. They're teasing the other team. It's all very organic, and everybody is on the same vibration.
And do you remember from a young age just feeling the connection there with just creative expression, where you're just something that you submersed yourself into, where like this is just, it's all around, it's comfortable, I like it, this is fun? Because I mean, even with me too, I've always loved music. I've always felt something, even from just listening, before I even picked up the guitar and started playing the instrument. But I was always timid about too much expression, just from the fear of judgment. But then of course, when you see everything around, I didn't really come from a musical family either, but when it's kind of seeing it around, seeing it's encouraged, it's something completely different.
Man, you know, I felt it immediately.
Okay.
I remember, I'll tell you a story. When I was young, and I don't know how far back my memories go, so I don't know how old I was when this was happening, but every single Christmas, in order to get your present, you had to dance or sing.
Oh my God.
Like, that's how it was for all the kids. And I had a lot of cousins, like a brother, a sister, and a lot of cousins. And so you can't get your present until you sing or dance. And that's just since I was young. So whatever you could do. If it's just clap and a little shimmy, that's fine. But you got to do something. And so like for me, imagine as a kid, music, singing has these like happy connections.
Yeah.
It does have some sad ones, but mostly happy. You know, my culture and my family kind of made it that way, where it's like you have so many happy memories where you're singing.
Yeah, no, I mean, even you mentioning sad moments though with relation, they're real.
Yeah.
They're real moments. I mean, even at that current moment, because I remember even listening to certain country songs too. It took me probably to like 3 years ago to actually like country music. But I remember listening to country as kind of in elementary school and feeling sad and just hearing the voice and like really listening to the lyrics and wondering if that's actually what that person went through, not even understanding what that person went through, but then being older and seeing that was like even like a coping mechanism or it's just some sort of therapy.
Yeah, no, to that point, you're absolutely right, because I remember I was maybe 7. I was young. It was before we moved from our first house, and I was 10 when I moved from our first house. But I remember listening to the song by Ray Charles, like 7 Spanish Angels. And in this song, he's talking about this guy is going to a war, and his wife is there, and she's like, they can take me back to Texas, but they won't take me back alive. And so they start shooting, they start going in this war. I guess it was like a kind of Mexican war, and I don't know the history behind it, but that song has stuck with me forever. I was young and I was feeling this emotion and I was feeling what they were saying. And I'm just like, man, this guy is leaving his wife and he's going to go to this war. And I was a kid, and I got it. It was like in the music. And so it hit me from then,
And especially coming from someone like Ray Charles too, where he's got the whole package. Yeah, he was a big inspiration for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I listened to Ray Charles back to back. Like growing up, I listened to Ray Charles and Dobie Gray. Those were like my main American artists that I listened to. Yeah, like all that stuff.
So when did you become more? I don't know. I'm trying to grab the words here, but when did the performance aspect where you're just like, instead of just, this is something fun to do with family and friends, when was it that I'm going to join the choir in 5th grade?
I don't know how I joined the choir. I honestly think my mom sent me there.
Yeah.
Or I think it's something that you had to do, like music class. I don't quite remember, but I remember just being in there and loving it. And then the teacher being like, oh, okay, cool, you can sing. Why don't you stand there and sing? And so that was like my first taste of performing, being in school musicals that are more than just the nativity play. Yeah. But actually you have to rehearse. I think we did something like Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat or something. Oliver, the little kid in the orphanage.
Yeah.
Some random stuff like that. But it was cool. You'd rehearse all the time. And
it was the fundamentals, just the introduction to rehearsing, getting there, singing in front of people too. And at any moment, did you kind of feel nervous, shy, or do I sound good? Did any of these kind of thoughts come to your head?
I think fortunately for me, I never had a lead role.
Yeah.
And so I was always in the background. I always sang, did my part, but I didn't get that taste of really being alone in front of people for a long time.
Okay.
I think until like the 12th grade, I had a solo, So I was sheltered from that kind of those nerves for a long time. So I got comfortable with performing for a long time before I became the solo artist that performs in front of people.
Okay. So when did, so doing choir, but we were also doing some rap stuff too, with kind of like your first rap group in 5th grade as well?
Yeah. So I got into hip hop music when I was about 10. So we moved, like I was saying earlier, from the township to a suburb because now apartheid had ended. And so
apartheid.
Yeah, apartheid.
Apartheid.
But I say apartheid had ended, and what happened is segregation laws were banned, and black people could move in and live with the white people now. We could go to school with the white people. Previously, you could only go to school. I mean, the best you could do is go to an Indian school where you just go to school with Indians. But because we were all kind of seen as black, and then we were allowed to go to school together. So when I went to this primary school, it was called Chelsea Drive. I met my best friend then, who listened to rap music.
What was he listening to?
Tupac.
Nice.
So he was listening to Tupac. So that's how I got into rap. And then I went to my cousin's house, my older cousin, and they were listening to like Bone Thugs. And then, so they had like these crews in their neighborhood where one crew was like, we're Bone Thugs, we the East Siders or something, or Bone Thugs. And the other crew was like Flip Mode Squad. And they're all like Busta Rhymes and all those guys. And then You had other guys that were like West Coast G-Funk and all the stuff. So the guys would just get together and rap the songs that they knew.
That's cool. It's such a different melting pot of styles too, from Busta Rhymes, Tupac, and the West Coast, East Coast style. Yeah. And then all of it coming together too, being reinterpreted between you guys, the youth. That's incredible.
Yeah. And like we were so young, everybody would just like rap. Obviously we get the songs all messed up.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't the real lyrics, but we were all just getting together and being like, yo, there's this cool thing where these guys in this America rap. We didn't even know it was America, to be honest with you. It was just these guys that do hip hop.
Yeah.
You know? And so that meeting my cousin and him and Bone Thugs got me really into Bone Thugs and Harmony. And at that time we had Microsoft. Remember that Microsoft that had it's like these brick walls for a screensaver, and you had to kind of move through the brick walls and chase the mouse or something. It was like the screensaver that you just keep going and chasing this like these little brick walls. But anyway,
man, I'm trying to think. All that's coming to my mind is the Microsoft paperclip from Word.
Yeah, that too. Remember that's
around the same time.
Around the same time, there was an encyclopedia called Encarta.
Okay.
It was like a disc. It was a CD that
the floppy disk where you put into the computer.
No, the actual disc, and you put it in. It's like an Encarta encyclopedia. So around that time, 1994 or 5 or something, and so I went back to school after visiting my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
I went into the library on the computer and printed out a whole bunch of Bone Thugs lyrics.
Oh, nice.
And so we started a group called True Thugs, and we wanted to rap like Bone Thugs.
Yeah.
And we would go at it. And we'd write, I don't even remember what we'd write, dude, but that was when we started really going at writing.
Do you remember what attracted you to these songs? Was it just the emotion behind the lyrics? Was it just kind of their sense of rhythm and rhyme and melody too? Or was it just, did it all hit you like a freight train?
It was, when it came to rap, it was the flow.
Okay.
When it came to the other music I listened to, I got the lyrics, I got the emotion. But when it came to rap, it was, and I'm just like, yo, listen to this. You know what I mean? And then you like listen to Busta Rhymes and he's like, wow. And
Yeah.
it's just like, what? And so sonically, these guys were all doing different things with their voices. And that's what really drew me to rap.
That's so sick.
More than the lyrics, because at that age, I didn't really know what they were talking about.
Just for, I hit one ear right out the other. Yeah. No, for sure. And so let's fast forward to the 12th grade, though, when your first kind of taste of being front and center solo performance. Yeah. How was that? Was that the choir?
No, that was for like my senior prom, not prom, but like, what do you call it when graduation? Mm-hmm. It's like the last assembly and you get to like leave and you say goodbye to the rest of the school and stuff. You're leaving school.
Yeah, it's like a graduation or like a last assembly.
Yeah. And so our choir teacher asked us to sing Where is the Love? And so I did the rap parts. And
by Black Eyed Peas?
Black Eyed Peas, 2003.
That's awesome.
What's wrong with the world, mama?
Dude, that song is one of the greatest.
Dude, I'm glad sometimes I didn't live in a time where cell phones were out, because that would have been like quite funny to watch.
Yeah.
Maybe a good memory now, but mostly embarrassing.
I was going to say, did you kill it?
I mean, I did well. People still kind of come up to me and say, what's wrong with the world, mama?
Oh, shit. That's awesome.
So it was a good time. But that was really, and these are all my boys. I went to an all boys high school.
Oh, really? All the boys.
Homies, they're going to see me on the stage going for it. You know what I mean? And I think that helped because there were no girls around, man. There was no like heart beating and stuff.
Yeah.
These are the same boys I mess around with every day. We just talk shit. We give each other a hard time. We play rugby. It's just like, yeah, so what if I mess up? I don't care.
It was kind of encouraged. The camaraderie was there. You had no worry of messing up or anything. Like, it's the boys. We're
fooling around anyway. We're just whatever. So I did it, nailed it, and that was my first taste of actually rapping in front of a crowd.
How'd it feel after?
It was great, and it was a good time. It was a good time, even though the song was, it Yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's a poppy radio.
Yeah.
I remember that song coming out here, and I was calling the radio stations to just have them play. I'm like, can you play that next? Can you play that next? Love that song.
Yeah, it's a good song, you know. It's a good song, but not one you want to have on your first rap resume.
not your breakout performance.
But actually, Black Eyed Peas is quite a legendary crew. So shout out to Black Eyed Peas.
Absolutely. For some reason, I thought you were going to say, "What is love? What is love, baby? Don't hurt me."
Yeah. No more.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I think he's from South Africa. I think so.
What's his name?
Starts with an H.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. No more. Yeah.
so after that, when did kind of more of the drive and the passion kind of come forward? Like, I love this feeling. I this is clicking with me, and you're starting to make music of your own at that point, I would imagine.
No, not at all. I wasn't even writing, you know. So, just to set the stage in the context, at school I played rugby, played cricket, I played soccer. I did really well in sports. I was academic, and I was a leader at school. So we have prefects. I was a prefect. I was a leader of like the school learners representative council, like the student union or something.
Okay, yeah.
I was in a group called Teenagers Against Drug Abuse. It was like I was very involved. You know, I was a schoolboy, learner, diligent guy, and I wanted to study accounting. So I went to university to study accounting, to study economics. I don't know why. Don't ask.
I was just about to ask why accounting. I mean, that's just from being scholarly and just down the line. Got it.
Down the line, man. I was like very straight and narrow, and so there was at that point no creative endeavors in my life. There was no expression. I was just always in systematic things, doing things, sporting system, school system, even a religious system, because I was very religious at the time too. And then when I got to university, man, that's when my eyes got opened.
To the rest of the world.
To everything else that's going on out there, you know, just like, oh, there's people studying music. There's people studying drama. There's people doing debating. There's like all sorts of stuff, you know?
But you walk in this fine line of just freaking, I didn't even know you're an athlete. I mean, what'd you name? 3-4 sports?
Oh, yeah. I played lots of sports in school. Loved it. I did.
What position you play in soccer?
Defender.
Okay, cool.
Fullback.
Yeah, I played left back.
Yeah, I played left back too.
Yeah,
because I'm left-footed, so I played left back and center back. And so when I went to university, I went with the objective of study, make money.
Okay.
You know, get your accounting. That's the best job you can get, and make money. 6 months in, I'm like, I don't like this.
Was your soul crushing, dying?
Yeah, I just had a terrible time. I didn't like it. You know, I really didn't like it. And at that same time, I started partying. You know, I started just going out and experiencing university. And there was a group of students at my university that used to meet outside one of the lecture halls and just start freestyling. And so I'd go past them, hear them freestyling, and I'd just join in. And we just do that and join in, and I just start rhyming.
You didn't know them at all either?
No,
You just kind of
like a group of kids that met, you know, and we start rhyming. And there was this big word, you know, cipher. That was the thing. Yo, come to the cipher. The cipher, the cipher, the cipher. And I was like, yeah, I'm coming to the cipher. You know what I mean? So I got hooked on that kind of stuff, like just off the cuff rap and stuff. I mean, there was a bus terminal where all the kids from college used to go and catch buses home. Mm-hmm. And we'd go down there and carry on the cipher after campus. This happened for about a couple of months. And one of the kids in the cipher was recording a mixtape, and he invited me to write and record for that mixtape. This guy's from Chicago. He was an exchange student, Will. Shout out to Will out there. You know, this guy, he's like, yo, I think you'd be really good on this mixtape. Come through and just write. So I wrote my first song.
And at that point, that's when you were first starting to write.
Yeah. So that's when I started to write.
Okay.
It was a Life Check Volume 1 mixtape, which is an organization, actually, a nonprofit organization in Durban that was throwing like monthly hip hop events. And later they asked me to actually be part of this event and host it and kind of provide a stage for inner city youth to come and rap and break dance and do graffiti and stuff like that. So it was my introduction into hip hop culture and hip hop as a culture, you know. It was fun. It was fun. So I wrote my first real rap, not the True Thug stuff. My first real rap. And it blew up, you know. It had a good time. Like everyone on campus was singing it. They loved it.
Do you remember what it was or what it was about?
For the next 16 bars, I'm around things switch. You mean switch things around? Yeah, that one, chick. Sometimes I punch lines until my own blood noses. Don't you mean nosebleeds? Nah, I meant blood noses. I stopped wanting ever doing this hop hip. Means I never want to stop doing this hip hop. I don't know. Something like that. It was just like rhymes, you know?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Rhymes.
But dude, your wordplay's fun.
It was just like, it was wordplay like that. You know?
And people caught on to it and loved it.
People loved it, man. People loved it. Is it possible to find, if you look inside of my mind, another one of a kind who even splits it on a mic? I don't remember. But it was just like rhymes and flows and punchlines. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And people around campus loved it and dug it. And then at that point, we were like, I want to kind of keep doing this.
It was a new energy. It was a good energy, you know. The predominant music in South Africa is Kwaito.
Kwaito?
Yeah, Kwaito music is like what you would think of kind of as Afro beats now. Has that kind of that beat. That's like a Kwaito beat, you know?
Yeah.
Like just different instruments and different sounds, but that tempo of boom, 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 boom. That's what we used to listen to in South Africa. House music was pretty big, and then some traditional South African music as well. And then so at the time when I started doing rap was relatively still very underground. It was very underground. You know, that people have been doing rap in South Africa since the 80s, but probably the 70s too, but, you know, really the 80s. But it was very underground.
Did it have a stigma to it? Because, I mean, even hip hop and rap coming into the States, it had the stigma of just be associating with violence or being associated with just profanity, being associated with stuff that you don't want around like your family and stuff like that, rather than just creative expression and music. Did it kind of have any sort of stigma, or was it just something that was underground and new?
You know, for us rappers, they used to like call us niggas, like niggas. Now my nigga, the Niggaz. You know, that Tupac made that famous. You know, so they'd be like, these guys, with their sagging pants and their caps to the side. Look at these niggas. And like, it wasn't a racial thing at all. It just meant you are a hip hop guy. You're a nigga. Yeah. You know? And so that was the only funny thing, is that like you'd get called that. And so you'd have to kind of just be like, yeah, guys, I'm just a rapper, you know? And you'd have to defend yourself somehow. But other than that, there was no stigma. There was no like, oh, there's a stigma. Obviously, your rappers got no girlfriends, you know. Rappers, you go to a rap party, there are no girls. That's it. That's pretty much it. But none of the other stuff. Like, you're not tough. You don't fight. You don't sell drugs. You're not rich. You're just a person who likes hip hop. That's how it was.
Because the art was just so underground. It sounds like at that point.
It was just underground, and it was all about the skill.
Yeah,
you know, it was all about, can you actually rap?
The craft. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was a fun time to grow up in. Battling, writing, and performing. I really got into it in my first, second year, third year. And I was recording. I even recorded my first mixtape around that time.
Okay. How many tracks were on it?
18.
18 tracks?
Yeah, I had 18 tracks.
Damn, dude.
I had 18 tracks on there. That did really well as well. People really liked that. But man, you know, when you listen back to your old music, you're just like, what was I doing? But people ask me for that music to this day. They love it, you know?
That's how you know you did something right.
It was good. It was a good time.
So from your first from that mixtape, is that the one that was your first solo debut, you would say?
No, that wasn't my album. So this was in 2006.
Okay.
Where I did the mixtape. I did a few more mixtapes after that. I recorded my first album in 2012.
Okay. So when going back to the mixtape, so when you're doing these mixtapes, are you just putting them out and just kind of handing them out to anybody who'll grab them, and then you're kind of doing some battle rap stuff too, as well as some just low key performances too at like some house parties, or?
This is what I really love about the come up in hip hop back when I was coming up, is that it forced you to wear many hats, and you had to,
Without even realizing it, I bet.
you had to strategize. You had to think about how to get this music to that person's hands. We sell mixtapes out the trunk of our car. We have street teams. We go to other people's shows and ask if we can put our CD on the table. We would give our CDs to like in South Africa we have taxis, which are like these minivans that carry like 16 passengers.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd go to one of the drivers and say, hey, can you play my music in here?
Oh, that's smart.
Give him the CD, plays his music, and give out little cards where people can buy it or what shop is stocking it. And so you'd have to think of all these ways of getting your music out there and selling it. And booking shows, you'd go to other people's shows, make connections. The community was very close because everybody depended on everyone else to.
Everyone was supporting each other. There wasn't any kind of you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing.
No, there wasn't much of that. Like there was like very competitive battling, dissing kind of stuff going on. But we were all one because even the guys that I've dissed or have dissed me, we've done music together.
Yeah.
We've supported each other and been at each other's shows. But there was always a competition. I'm better than you. You're not better than me. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so we had to just hustle. Really, that's what it was in Durban. Hustle, getting around the country as well, to find opportunities to perform. You had to figure it out.
Were you still a student at that time too?
Yeah. So
how was that? How was that balance?
Man, I was a terrible student. I was a terrible student. I went to study life at university. When I stopped, I kind of gave up my accounting, and I continued the same degree, and I just switched over to economics and finance. I studied that until like I had 6 months left to study, and I was like, I don't want to do finance, dude. So I took my credits and I did marketing and management because...
And using that to have with your music too? Or were you just...
Not at the time, because at the time I was just like trying to finish. I was just trying to finish. The music was a side thing I was doing, but it was just a separate thing. I wasn't...
Oh, okay.
I'm sure the skills came in handy somehow, and I wasn't aware of it, but I did marketing, I did business management, and then... graduated. I was like, I'm graduating.
Oh, you graduated?
Yeah.
Dude, that's
gonna finish.
That's what's up. Because I mean, at my point, I was doing a bunch of just weekend runs. So like I've been in a handful of different bands. We'll do like Friday, Saturday, Sunday somewhere, and then just kind of come back. And then I'm just kind of like, I never really wanted to go to college. I just kind of did it to appease family, and then just kind of just scooted by the seat of my pants doing it. But then I started realizing, like, how can I make the most out of my time? So, like, the classes I'm taking, how can I apply it to something over here? So, realizing just, like, real-world connections and using certain language and then packaging and promoting a product, and then especially the rise of social media. I mean, I'm talking way early too, when no one really was taking it seriously. Before it was even being talked about in colleges. I started understanding what public relations was, and I'm like, this is something I already do. So that's when I kind of like pursued that as well. But on top of that, being a full-time student and a full-time gigging musician, and then my ideas of conceptualizing of like a creative business was just kind of in the back of my head too. But it was really like this balancing act, but kind of going through the same thing where I was like right at the end. And that's the only thing that I wish that bothers me, that I started something I didn't finish. So I have a lot of respect for you for starting something and you finished it while doing something else too.
I had to. My mom was paying for my college.
Yeah. And yeah.
And so I had to finish. She would let me like change my major. And so like I went there to study accounting. The degree is like a Bachelor of Science degree. So it's like the same school, the same kind of faculty.
Yeah.
And then you kind of drop these subjects and you do, okay, Mom, I'm doing economics now. I really like economics and finance. Don't worry, I'll still make money. I'm not going to be an accountant, but I'm going to be a finance guy. Don't worry.
That's still numbers, yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you got to finish. And so in my third year, I was like, look, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this. And she said, okay, cool. just pay for your last year yourself. And so I kind of used my odd job, music money to pay for my last year of college. And so because I was paying for it, I definitely had to finish, you know?
Yeah, made a huge difference. Then you finished though.
Yeah. And so I finished and, man, still got stuck up in a corporation, you know? Still went and sold cigarettes. I worked for British American Tobacco.
Really?
Yeah. And, you know, like at that time when you're young, just bringing it back to our conversation about like how to stay creative and have your outlets. It's not like these are regrets, but these are lessons that I wish I learned earlier, maybe, of like, I had this rap thing going and I still didn't focus on it fully. I chose a job and I went to a corporation because they were giving me a salary, a nice car, paying for some things, you know? And so there I was in corporate South Africa.
And at that point, was the music creative expression, was that all kind of on the back burner, the back seat?
No, the music was still there.
It was still there.
Yeah, I was still rhyming. I was still performing. I was DJing. And so the music was still very live, but I wasn't dedicated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there was a time in my past, and I mean there's always different times where you do things purely for passion. But I was at a level where there was potential to make this my livelihood, you know, and turn it into a business and have the most fun thing, or the thing I enjoy the most, be the thing I do for a living.
At that time, though, did you realize that?
I was 21.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 21.
Yeah.
It's like music was fun. Music was like parties, groupies, free alcohol.
Lifestyle.
You know what I mean? Like it was just a great thing that I did. But it was also a thing that, it's funny that I say music, party, drugs, or alcohol, because my music was also very uplifting.
Yeah, I was gonna say your lyrics are very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like from the beginning, my music has been very thoughtful, very social commentary. But when I was 21, I was also just coming of age, you know, just left the whole Christianity thing and I was doing my thing.
Did that played into your music too as you were writing a little bit?
No, and like in terms of making any kind of worship music or Christian music?
No. As far as you're coming into your age of 21, experiencing the lifestyle of just being an adult and being a musician and a rapper, and that sense, did that play any influence into creating some of the music?
Yeah, definitely, because I definitely started writing a more kind of outward view, like looking at things that are happening, because I was mixing with all sorts of people.
Yeah.
I was mixing with people on my campus. I was mixing with people in my sporting life. I did still continue to play some sports after school.
Damn.
I was mixing with people from different backgrounds. I mean, naturally in Durban, you are interacting with people from the suburbs, from the townships, and all the way in the countrysides, the villages. And so I had that kind of outlook when I was becoming an adult. I had influences from everywhere.
Yeah.
And this came through in my music. I'd rap in Zulu, I'd rap in English, I'd rap on current events that are like South African, current events that are world current events. Like I just touch so many different markets or groups or people, you know.
Where do you think that comes from, your curiosity for all these different groups and people?
That's a good question. I always attributed to growing up in South Africa. We have 11 official languages. So we have like 11. These are just the official ones. We have so many different peoples and races. And so when you grow up in South Africa, let me see. I can speak 5 of them, the South African languages. You're interacting with different languages all the time. This means different cultures. This means you're always wearing different hats, assimilating into this one, making this one feel comfortable, learning about this one. So naturally it comes out in my music because I'm just constantly immersed in all these cultures. When I tell you I play rugby, I'm in an Afrikaans culture. I'm playing against Afrikaans people. This is like Dutch. But you're playing soccer, you're around black people, you know, just like township black people, not even people from, not even black people from the suburb, because sometimes we can be different, but like township black people, and different in the sense of just like the way we speak, the colloquialisms, the mannerisms. It's a different culture, even though you're all black and from South Africa, you know? And so all those experiences were coming out, whether I liked it or not, in my music. In where I went to school and where I kind of went to university, colored people, just, they speak a different dialect, different language, different mannerisms. And if you are kind of growing up around colored people, you pick up on it. And you also have those colloquialisms, you know? So they come out in my music as well. And everyone understands everyone else.
And you're comfortable with your own identity too, because mixing with so many different cultures and so many different people, sometimes at the end of the day, you sit back and you're like, well, where do I lie in kind of the world sometimes?
You know, it's funny you say that, because I don't know where I got this from, but I've never identified with one culture. I've never been like, you know, I'm Zulu. And I'm Zulu as far as it's just in me. It's me. I cannot pinpoint these things that make me Zulu, that if I lose them, I'm no longer Zulu. I cannot think of these certain things that my culture loves, that I identify with, that I love too, that makes us the same. I just know that I grew up in it, and everything that it is, I am. There's nothing you can tell me that I don't know, but then there's nothing you can tell me that I don't know about all these other cultures too. And so all these other cultures, I feel at home. And I've always felt that way. Even when I went to live in another country, I just fit right in, made that culture my own culture. And, you know, it's part of me. Let me say that.
Yeah.
It's all part of me.
But I feel like it's because you have such an open mind and such a willing to, the freedom to express too, that sometimes having that allows people to kind of come in. But sometimes having such an open mind, sometimes people just want to crowd it with their bullshit into your head because you're willing to have an open mind. Do you feel like sometimes you kind of had to kind of garnish your own discipline from your own identity and just being willing to kind of absorb culture and being able to kind of separate? If I'm kind of asking the right.
No, I hear you. It's I think I've been fortunate in that regard, because when I grew up, when I was little, I went to school with Indians. I went to an Indian school. I mean, I'm talking about Indian, singing Hindi prayers, practicing the Hindu religion, really getting to know this culture. And then in fourth grade, I went to school in a white school. But I'm just backtracking from the Indian school. There was a colored school across the road. Hung out with colored kids a lot. Then I went to a white school. It was like diverse. It was pretty mixed, but there was kids from everywhere. I grew up in a township. I grew up in a suburb. And then on top of all of this, I was a big kid. No one messed with me. You know, like I didn't get into fights with people. And when I did, it was just like some random thing that didn't last that long. But no one gave me a hard time. And so I didn't have to defend myself. I made friends with whoever I wanted to make friends with. And pretty much everyone, this is something that's been inside me since I was young. I literally will make friends with anyone. I don't care who you are. Like if you want to talk and you're cool, we'll be friends. You know what I mean? So I've had that my whole life. And just to answer your question, there is an open-mindedness. You know, there is an open-mindedness. And in my case, I can't speak for everyone. It's a gift. I got given that open-mindedness. I got given the talent of just not being shy, talking to people, performing for people, making people feel comfortable. It's just, I guess, you know, blessing. That's my name.
Yeah.
So it's like living up to my name, basically.
Because sometimes outside looking in, I'm like, that person's very confident. And sometimes it's maybe there's an ego that's attached to it, but other times it's something like where I look at you, where you have such an open mind, you're friendly, you're charismatic, you're very charismatic too, but you know how to use your words correctly as well to kind of make the other person feel welcomed, and you're not really talking below. I mean, even though you are a foot taller than me at this, but metaphorically, I never feel like you're speaking beneath me, sort of thing. So with all of these characteristics and qualities about yourself, going into your first solo debut album, um, how to take me through that whole creative process of this is your first solo debut album, no more mixtapes. This is going to be like your flagship. You would,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Talking about identity, that's a good place to springboard into this conversation about my album. The one thing, so in 2011, me and my ex decided to leave and we went to go live in the Republic of Georgia. And so we wanted to travel and we wanted to kind of see the world. And so at that time, you know, being in another country for the first time, living in Europe, it's like kind of Europe and Asia near Turkey there. I had this like sense of I'm a South African. That's when the identity thing first kind of hit, like, because when you're a South African, when in South Africa, you know you're a South African. There's no constant reminders. But when you live in another country, you're constantly telling people things are happening back home. You're not a part of it. You miss your family. You don't see what's happening. You're not part of the struggles of everyday people. You're not part of the good news, the celebrations. And so my debut album was born out of my identity as a South African.
mm,
And the album is called Public Interest. It has the cover of the then at the time South African president Jacob Zuma. And it's just his face on the cover, not mine. And it's Public Interest post 9/4, post 1994. And it's basically a social commentary. And this is where I got the idea, you know, of looking at South Africa. Now that I took a step back, I'm looking at the country since apartheid ended and since we got our democracy. It's 2012 now. Where are we? You know, how's everything going? Who's looking out for the public interest? The public's interest, you know? And so I started thinking a lot more about these things. Reading, following the news, following our history. I remember I went to the Apartheid Museum around that time, and I actually spent 2 days there just researching and looking at South Africa's apartheid history since colonialism, and just looking at the history of the country and thinking to myself, wow, this country is rich in history. And the album starting to get informed like that.
okay.
Things that are happening in South Africa, things I can comment on, feelings I have. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it was a political album, it was a reflective album because it wasn't criticizing politics too much.
I think you hit the nail on the head with talking about identity, and especially moving out of South Africa and then really coming into terms of I am South African, and then from your whole upbringing to where you are now, you're very deep in thought with it.
Yeah, that's especially in that album, it hit me, you know? It was a perfect time for me to like put my whole life in an album.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I had lots of time and I had lots of reminders of what it is you can be proud of, what it is you can look and hope it was better, what it is that makes you who you are. It was such a very good time. So it came to me. I wrote. I just kept writing. The songs came. And I wanted to collaborate with as many artists from my city as possible because there's so many artists I didn't get to work with since I hadn't released an album yet. But I did. I collaborated with quite a few artists from my city.
How was that timeline process? Because just even collaborating, working with other people sometimes can be a lot because you're waiting on that person's time. You're trying to get the whole album done. You're waiting on that person to kind of send that track back. So did it go pretty smoothly, or was it kind of a whole other learning lesson?
It was great. Everyone that worked on my album was professional.
That's amazing.
I sent them the beats. So I worked with a production duo, Lunatic and Zenith. They are the Soul Academy. And what they did was they sent me the beats. I picked a whole bunch of beats, sat and wrote to them. And then I'd send the beats and maybe even some drafts to guys in South Africa. And I said to them, hey guys, in a few months, I'm coming to South Africa. Get your verses ready. And we're going to hit the studio. And so we had time to write these songs, practice these songs. And then we knocked the album out in about 4 or 5 days. and it was a 18-track album.
Yeah.
And I got these guys in the studio. Sometimes it was like recording 4 songs a day. Guys coming in the studio, let me hear your verse. Great. Do you have anything you want to fix? Nope. Let's go. And we just record it. I recorded a documentary of it too.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. On my channel, Mr. Black Moss TV or something, on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I mean, I don't get too sidetracked here, but where did your stage name come from?
Oh, from university. So
Okay.
you remember I was telling you about the ciphers?
Yeah.
So I kind of called myself Black Moss. It's the Black Master of Spontaneous Sentences. It was kind of like what I did. I just freestyled everything all the time.
Spontaneous sentences.
Yeah, so Master of Spontaneous Sentences. I came with the name Moss first. Then I was thinking, what does that mean? And then I came up with Master of Spontaneous Sentences.
That's fire.
So
when you're collaborating with all these different artists, and dude, I love the fact that you tip your hat back at home. You're like, let's see how we can really kind of bring the community get together for this. And when you were checking in with other people's verses and seeing if they liked it or not, so you kind of allowed the creative freedom there, even though this is your solo debut album that you have a feature on. Were you just like, you're comfortable, you cool with it? Or did you feel like you want to kind of have your hands in their verses a little bit and kind of do anything? I've always wondered that.
I'm lucky. I think I'm a very collaborative person. And so I trust the people I'm working with.
Yeah.
Just like we're sitting down here, I know about sound. I know about mixing sound. But I'm just chilling here, not really saying, hey man, let's do this and let me check the EQ. I'm not like that,
Yeah.
And so I trusted everyone that I worked with. I really respected them, actually. Like, they were very good artists. And so I felt like I was working with legends in some cases. I was like, wow, I get to work with this guy. I get to work with this guy. Get to work with this girl. And so when we got together, I actually welcomed their input in the song because I'd written the songs and we weren't together. But now that we're in the studio, how can we make this better? And I've always worked like that. And so we bounce ideas back and forth. We change some stuff. And I've always thought, like, if you're a creative person, leave your ego at home.
Amen.
You know what I mean? Like, leave your ego at home. If somebody tells you, hey, man, this isn't good, listen, because you're going to get a good song. You're going to get a good verse. You're going to get a good book, whatever it is. Listen. Even if you don't take their advice, at least you're thinking about it again. You're giving it a second go. You're processing the information. And some of the stuff you can fix later. Some of the stuff, the thoughts will come to you later. But the moment you stopped and listened, it's so good for the process. And so that's how I worked with everyone on my album. We got together. They felt happy and free to contribute.
That's incredible. And then it did well.
Yeah, it did really well. So I wasn't back home in South Africa to promote, tour, and sell the album. But fortunately, people were listening. There was an original materials award. It's an award show for hip-hop musicians in South Africa. And I got nominated and won the album of the year in 2012 for that album. So that was good. Yeah, that was a good time. I don't even know who accepted my award.
I was about to say, how did the buzz get to that point?
The creators, the kind of organizers of the events, they'd heard my music. They do the due diligence, just really listening to all the releases, all the artists that are putting out music. And so they felt like it was worthy, and that was kind of a nice, acknowledgement.
Yeah.
It's a really nice acknowledgement.
I mean, just something to have under the belt too, that almost not only legitimizes just the piece of work, it's a nice gratification, but also this just kind of adds more fuel to your tank. I mean, did you feel that at that point where it's just like, I mean, the thing is, awards are kind of funny. They're weird. Some people really need the awards, but just having that recognition too, even if you didn't win, the fact that you were nominated is still an incredible achievement to have, especially where it kind of comes from, where your heart, being able to collaborate with kind of the people of your community and also being recognized by your community.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the best feeling, the feeling of acknowledgement comes from the fact that album didn't have a radio single. That album didn't have a party song. That album was literally called Public Interest with the president's face on it. It was a lot of social messages. It was a lot of reflection. It wasn't your hip hop award winning album for most people.
Yeah.
But the fact that it got recognized means that like the message hit and it landed. You know what I mean? So it actually penetrated through, hey, who is this guy who hasn't sold 1 million copies? Who is this guy who doesn't have a radio single, top 10, #1 song? Why is he winning an award? Do you know what I mean? So that was good because it meant at the time that people were actually looking and checking for socially conscious hip hop, or, you know, stuff that's just like talking about what's going on.
Yeah.
That was a good feeling.
Did all those kind of bells and just alarms go off when you won that award? Is that something you kind of realized later in life?
Like, what do you mean exactly? Like
all the things you kind of just realized, like the fact that we didn't have a radio single, the fact that we didn't have this stuff, the fact that it won means something.
Yeah, no, that was all in the moment. Because, you know, before, when I'm working on the album, when I'm putting the music out, I'm thinking of all that stuff. I'm thinking of this album is going to make an impact. This album is going to make a difference. This album is not going to appeal to the formulas of in the industry. So I'm thinking of all these things. And so in my mind, I already know how dope this work is. It's not as though the award is validation. The award is just a good confirmation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not something that's like, oh, now you're good. No, it's confirming, oh, you thought you were good, or you thought this was good? Yeah, you were right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a good feeling. And I knew it right away because I was like, okay, great. Okay, great.
Yeah.
We were working for this kind of reception or this kind of impact.
So where does your career go from there?
From there, I released another mixtape. Just, you know, I was traveling. I was in love with traveling. I got the travel bug. I went on to South Korea next.
Strictly for travel?
I was teaching English there. So I went to teach English in 2012. And the same year, maybe 2 years later, excuse me. That's when I met Saul Good. And so we started the group Part-Time Cooks.
I love the name, by the way.
We started Part-Time Cooks in South Korea. And that was like the rap duo that carried me right through until COVID. So me and him, I used to be his hype man. I used to kind of hype him up. And we decided, you know, let's record some music together. We used to hang out all the time anyway, recorded music. And then we started a group. And because I lived in another city, like 2 hours away, we'd only meet on weekends. I was a teacher. He was a teacher. So we'd only meet and record and perform on the weekends. So hence the name Part-Time Cooks, because we were only just like, you know, kind of doing it part-time. But that took off. That people love that kind of, that duo, that vibe, the music we were making. It was a refreshing vibe.
Yeah, especially around that time, because I'm trying to think in the States where people like Mac Miller, Wiz Khalifa, I don't know if you're familiar with OCD, Moosh, and Twist. They were kind of like the similar hip hop style. Where very, very melodic stuff where you can kind of sing along to, but the lyrics and like the hip hop and the verse, it had a nice mixing blend, melting pot of a lot of cool stuff too, where you could possibly hear it on the radio, and you could possibly hear it in a club too, but also there's maybe something else on the album that you're like, oh man, this has like such a deep message, or this is hitting hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, it was a good time. You know, we made those kind of melodic music, reminiscent of 90s hip hop, you know, very jazzy hip hop, boom bappy kind of vibes, you know, sing along. It went well with the Korean audience as well, you know, it went well with the Japanese audience. And so, yeah, we started building in 2014, 2015. And on from there, recorded a few albums.
Yeah, your guys' chemistry is very good. Was it like that the moment you guys met? Did you guys have that click, you and Saul?
Yeah, actually, there's a video of us. The first day we met, we were rapping together.
Oh, really?
So there's a video online of just us rapping. And that's kind of what we connected on from the day we met. When it comes to making music, you know, we've always brought different things to the table, and it worked really well.
Yeah.
You know? Actually, when I started rapping with Saul, that's when I sang more.
Okay.
and kind of started thinking about songs holistically as like the whole song, the arrangements, the build up, the bridges. And he's very good at writing melodies and writing kind of like song structure and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a fun process working on that collaboration.
Yes, I mean, coming from your solo debut album, where you had all of these different types of collaboration, even just understanding the mentality of, and also putting your ego at the door to have that, and then coming to Korea and having that with a solo act, and especially the chemistry that you guys had right off the bat. Sometimes duos don't really even make it past a year.
Dude, it's tough, man. It's tough being in a group. It's tough being in a duo. I think the successful ones, I'd love to interview successful groups. I mean, I think Outkast broke up.
Yeah.
Ray Shremmerd broke up, or they don't hang out together. It's a constant taxation on just like your energy. You're two different personalities. You vibe on this music, but you're sucking each other's creative minds the whole time.
That's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're constantly taxing each other because you're trying not to be a solo artist. He's trying not to be a solo artist. You're trying for him to kind of meet you closer to where you are. And he's trying to get you to meet him closer to, and you're trying to find the middle somewhere. And it's just constantly going. Like you don't have space. You know what I mean? You don't have time to decompress because you're making this thing together. You're cooking together.
And you need space in order to grow.
Yeah. And if there's anything I would do differently, is from the get-go, I think as a creative, I would have continued to make more solo projects. We were very invested in our collaboration to the point where it was the only thing we did, strategize.
Well, I mean, the fact that you're invested because of really, you guys had a lot of opportunity with Part-Time Cooks.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys were the first non-Korean to be signed to a Korean label?
To a Korean major label, yeah. We got a major label deal in Korea to distribute our music, and that hadn't really happened. They've got their own music industry going on there, so foreigners, you don't just come to Korea and start releasing music and touring.
Yeah.
You have to get like a work visa and stuff to do that, and luckily for us, our label got us organized with that kind of stuff.
So yeah, I mean, but the opportunity right in front of you there. I mean, seeing this, of course, that it's going to require a lot of your time and investment and your thoughts and all the creative juices that you have too. Did it feel like that at the time too, or were you just like, just go?
When you're speeding, sometimes you don't realize until you crash. Sometimes you don't realize how fast you're going until you crash, and you're like, oh wow, that hurts. You know what I mean? And so with us, if I would give anyone advice, or if I would say anything to anyone, is like, no matter how intense it is, no matter how invested you are, do your own thing on the side. Because if you do your own thing on the side, you're keeping your fire burning, and you're staying true to like whatever it is that your creative energy is telling you to do. Whereas in the group, you're expressing a bit differently. Like, we're not talking about South African issues and politics in Part-Time Cooks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not expressing my past and who I am in the same way when I was a solo artist. And so that outlet still needs to be there, I think. And then when it comes to just working on this group all the time, you become so invested in the success of this thing that it turns into like a business. And our case is a bit different because we didn't have the huge infrastructure support of like your boys or your friends that you grew up with that eventually end up supporting you. We were running everything together: the mixing, mastering, recording, graphic design, printing, of throwing our own shows. Like, we're doing a lot of the stuff ourselves. So there was a lot of potential to burn out there.
Did you guys have any butting heads at any point?
Yeah, all the time. We butted heads all the time. I think eventually our relationship became more professional than personal, just because of just the constant, like, misunderstandings and butting of heads. But we loved each other and we appreciated each other because it's all for this endeavor.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's not a time where I'm sure Saul also feels the same when it's like, hey man, you're a dick, but professionally. You know what I mean?
Dude, you're speaking right to the soul. I get it because I mean, even going back to no matter what group or creative project or collaboration you're in, make sure that you're watering your own plants.
Yeah.
Make sure that you still have your thing going on. It took me way too long for myself to realize that too. And exactly. Well, I forgot how you said it, but I really liked it. You don't know how fast you're going until you crash.
Oh, until you crash, man. That boom. That, you know, that'll let you know, okay, I was going this fast.
But that's why even the way I have like my band too, I value everything in creativity and connection.
Yeah.
And I funnel that with my passion, which is music. Hence why this podcast is all about creativity and being able to sit down and connect and understand a little bit more. But when I'm approaching my music and my band in a sense too as well, I try to make sure to have a good understanding of just I respect and have such a real understanding of everyone's input creatively. And I always want to make sure that everyone's not only just enjoying themselves too, but they're able to kind of provide something for themselves as well. I mean, even our mutual friend and fellow Korean man, Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, it only bring. I mean, him for his ability to not only work on his own music, build his own studio, produce and mix and master my record, and him to play drums on my record too. It's only going to make him a stronger mind and personality too. And also, he brings the personality.
No,
he's a vibe. Yeah,
he is a vibe, you know, and like working on a group and collaborating constantly with someone. There's a certain. It's like a weird love, man. It's like a weird.
It is a weird love.
You respect someone so much and you love them so much, and you're like, you know, this person has made me a better person. But by working with this person, I've also seen my absolute douchebaggery, if that's the word. You know what I mean? Just like I'm stressed. I don't take care of myself. I don't sleep. I'm chasing this thing. I'm snappy. I'm grumpy. I'm chasing this thing. But wow, look at this thing that we're making. It's like this beautiful yin yang kind of black, white, dark lights thing going on. You know what I mean? And it's great. But like we're saying, have those moments where you take a break and then you kind of find your passions and continue with your passions.
It seemed like with Part-Time Cooks, you guys were full speed ahead because you were able to share the stage with Wiz Khalifa and Anderson .Paak.
We did a show there with Wiz Khalifa, Anderson .Paak when they came through to South Korea. Yeah, so
that's incredible.
Some good times, you know.
How are those shows like?
Yeah, they were fun. So it was nice. I mean, our label that we're part of as well are like, these guys are like the Wu-Tang Clan of Korea. That's what I always refer to them as. It's like a 13-member crew, all very good rappers, all very banging hard beats. And they just like, they do, you know, these are the kind of shows where the whole stadium is like this. And so those are the kind of shows we're doing. And it was great, man. It was great. It was such a great experience. I'm like forever grateful for that experience. Shout out to Vis Major.
Because the fact that you not only made great music, by the way, we were even talking about before this podcast, just was rattling off like the 5 songs I've been listening to on repeat as I've been running. But besides the product of putting it out there, but everything that has brought you to that point from your days in South Africa of just learning how to get the product and the music in front of eyeballs and get people to be interested in it. I mean, your guys' visuals were incredible as well. I mean, between the music videos, the flyers, and just the lively show. I mean, I felt like even for me watching it on YouTube and my phone and even listening to it in my AirPods, I felt like the live shows were a very good representation of your guys' art.
Yeah. Thank you, man, for sure, you know. And having someone, that's another thing about working in the group. So you talk about all the skills that I kind of learned and came to the group with. Even though I had those skills of marketing my music and selling my music, you learn so much from your other partner who has their experience as a solo artist, who's really good at relationship building and is connecting people together and getting people to work on videos with you, getting people to, kind of give you a good deal on collaborations or venues. And so these are skills that you pick up from each other as well. Not just bringing your own skills to the table, but you're learning other ways of keeping the juices going, of solving problems, of doing things just by being in this collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could think about, I've been playing, I picked up the guitar when I was 10. I started gigging out when I was about 16. That was when I was first band. Shout out to Joey. But between that, I've also just played in so many different projects. I've gotten to collaborate and write different songs with so many different people. And you're exactly right. There's always something to pick up from everybody. And I think Metro Boomin was the one. I think it's even his Instagram bio of always being a student.
Yeah.
And always willing to learn. And he's one of the producers that I really look closely at too, especially in hip hop, where and it shows too, because everything that he comes out with, he's not only kind of reinventing himself, but you can kind of tell that he's pushing himself creatively, and even relating. I mean, kind of still talking about Part-Time Cooks. Your guys' projects were a little bit different, but it was still the same. It was still you guys. You guys weren't trying something because you guys had a little bit more notoriety.
Yeah.
You guys weren't trying something. The fact that most of your stuff was in English too.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that was a let's see how I have it in my head, but do you feel like being in Korea, rapping in English, do you feel like that helped you or hurt you in some senses?
Well, first of all, we couldn't speak Korean that well to rap in Korean. So part of it was just like, we really would love to, but we also don't want to butcher the language. There's like a certain thing with hip hop where it's not like other genres where you got to do it right. You got to pay the right respect and homage. You can't be the comedic Korean rapper just because you're trying to be silly to mask the fact that you can't speak Korean.
Turns gimmicky too.
Yeah, so we kept it in English because you can only be true to yourself, But we did learn Korean, and eventually when our Korean was good enough, then we started putting out music in Korean. And we started like venturing out and putting out their music. So whether it hurt us or not, I think it just served us the way it served us because it was always true to what we were. If we could speak Korean and we chose not to, that might be a different story. But I think our fans understood and grew with us.
Okay.
And so they understood in the beginning, these guys are foreigners. They don't know how to speak Korean. But after 4 years of doing this, 5 years of doing this, then they appreciated the fact that we haven't just stuck to rapping in English. We're making the effort to learn the language. We're doing interviews when we're on TV or radio or something. We're doing the interviews in Korean. We're speaking in Korean. We're posting our social media posts in Korean. So you can see that kind of development over time.
Yeah, and I bet your audience really appreciated it too.
Yeah, definitely. We got more Korean fans. And that's what you want to do. You want to build with people.
Yeah, you kept it authentic from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
there for sure. But even the writing process too. I saw it in an interview. California Butterfly. That you heard the beat and then just those words, California Butterfly. That's the first thing that came to your head.
California Butterfly, can't let you pass me by. That's it. And then like California Butterfly, can't let you pass me by. Don't think I'll find another better way to let you. Something. And then later we change it and add the Korean parts. But like the first California Butterfly, can't let you pass me by, that was it. And then we were just like, okay, let's add some other Korean words in here. And then we added the Korean in there. And South Korean's better than mine. So for him, it's nothing. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He just puts it, just slots it right in there. Korean. And then we had the verse, the hook.
So for lyrically or even just the hook or melody, when you're listening to that beat, but the fact that in the interview I saw, you're like, California Butterfly, that's the first thing that came to my head. I don't even know what a California Butterfly is, but that's what came to my head. Is that your creative process for some of the stuff, or was that just something that was like a special moment? Because that song slaps, dude.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Like, I'm the master of spontaneous sentences, even when it comes to recording and writing, not just freestyling, Like, there is no sketching out a song and thinking, I'd like this song to talk about A, B, and C. I just listen to a beat and literally the first thing that comes or the second thing that comes, I'll just go with it. Sometimes it's the words, sometimes it's the melody, sometimes it's somebody else saying something and I turn it into a melody. So it depends, you know, but it's always just a spontaneous thought that comes into my mind and then we go with it. And actually working with Saul, there were a lot of times when he'd come up with the melody and I'd put the words to it, or I'd come up with the melody and he'd put the words to it, or we both write different choruses and one ends up being the bridge and the other ends up being the hook, or we put them together. So there's no one set way in which the music comes together. There's no one set process. I think it works for me to just be fluid. Some people kind of have to have their structure, but not for me.
The only person that I know that does that is Jay-Z.
Yeah.
In the studio. He just, I love Rick Rubin. I'm reading his book right now. And one of the things he talked about when he works with Jay-Z, he's like, and Rick Rubin, he's worked with everybody under the sun. Everybody. I'm not sure if you're a Rick Rubin fan, but
dude, everyone. Come on, legend.
Yeah, absolutely. His book's incredible too. Just talking about just enriching the creative individual and understanding your creative freedom and really just trying to like really put that mind, soul, body connection into it. It's incredible. But the thing he talked about Jay-Z was he's just like, he was the one that said, he's like, I've never seen it before. He's somebody that can just sit there, close his eyes, be in the moment and be like, got it. No pen, no paper, get in there, crush it.
So, you know, the funny thing is Saul does that. Saul Good does that. He just boom. He's got a verse.
Because the thing is, I'm not a rapper, but when I'm chucking on a few chords and just trying to lock into a certain melody of something, of course I have some kind of themes and lines that I like to. But then I have to kind of like put them together and then I really kind of create a concept, because if I don't, I feel like it's kind of random.
Yeah.
And that's why with California Butterfly, after hearing you talk about that interview and then going back and listening to the song, you captured like a whole theme. You captured a vibe. You captured you even put like a little bit of a fun message behind it too.
Yeah, you know, as soon as we said California Butterfly, can't let you pass me by, I turned to him and I was like, yo, bro, imagine you're in California just walking down the strip, you know, the beach, and you're just like looking at this California butterfly and you're like, yo, California butterfly, what's going on? And so that was like the whole vibe, you know?
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, it's about 8 at night, drinking, two dudes in his apartment just
talking about butterflies.
You know what I mean? Just talking about butterflies, hoping we're in California, and we put it together, you know? And that was one of the fun times when you talk about like my creative process, being locked in a room with Saul and everyone else is out partying and you guys are like in here just like, okay, we're going to write a song today. You know what I mean? And so you're both just walking around the house. He's in the kitchen. I'm in the studio, the little room we record in. Hey, what do you got? Hey, I got this. What do you got? Okay, cool. And we're bouncing off each other. Man, that was a nice time, you know? And like you can feel the energy in the house because he's writing some dope shit. I'm writing some dope shit. It's coming together. And then, you know, he's like, nah, change this, do it like this. And we're just constantly bouncing the ideas, you know?
That's capturing lightning in a bottle. Exactly. And just feeding off that energy, especially when your energy is high and your partner's energy is high too. And exactly that, where you're not even realizing there's a whole other world outside that's going on, and they're partying, they're doing your thing, but you guys are cooking.
And you're on fire, you know? Like we had a lot of those sessions where some good songs were made out of that kind of environment where you're just locked in. And you're going like for...
Why do you think that though? What is the special? Because I absolutely agree to that for sure. And again, Rick Rubin even talks about that. I forget what chapter, but he says when you're in that, I think he calls it like a flow state. Yeah. And he's like, when you're in that flow state, nothing else matters, and learning the discipline to continue into that flow state until you are completely off the wave.
Yeah.
But why is that something that's just so special?
You know, for me, I think it's being able to be present. When you're cut out the distractions and you're in the room with someone else who's there to do the same thing, you're vibrating at just this like state of presence where your phones don't matter, what's going on out there doesn't matter. You're trying to create this thing and you're feeling this vibe and you're catching it, and every single thing that's a stimulus is happening in the room right there. It's someone else saying something, you're bouncing off that. It's not something that happened on your phone. It's not something that happened outside. It's not something that happened online. It's something that's happening right now in this moment. And so I think because of that, that is a very powerful energy. You know, some of the best work you do is written in the moment, but you can always tweak it and edit it later and refine it later. But that raw essence, that hip hop, that thing, it's only in the moment. It's only in the moment. That's what's awesome about freestyles, is that you're creating them on the spot. And so, yeah, that's it. That to me, that was the most special times, the most challenging times, when you had a bunch of people who had nothing to do with the creative process in the room. And they're there to drink, and they're there to talk to their friends, and they're there to talk on their phone while you're trying to write and record. And eventually, sometimes you have to kick them out, you know, because it's like, we're here to do something. You got to contribute. You got to contribute to that vibe, or else, you know, see yourself out.
It's tough too, especially when some people just don't know how to contribute, and they're just like, I don't know, just tell me what to do. And it's like, no. What do you feel? What?
Yeah,
like,
just react.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even going back to Christmas Day when you're like, sing and show me a little dance for your present.
You know? And I used to make people just do ad-libs on our mics. I used to make people come in, hey, do a skit. Hey, Reggie, come.
It's so important, though. It breaks them out of their shell. And sometimes people need a little bit of that push and a little bit of that encouragement, too. I mean, I was like so chicken shit to sing in front of anybody and just do anything because I believed the thoughts and just the expressions of other people for the longest time, too, of just, you're only a guitar player and to accompany something else. You can never, I mean, I've had people even tell me just, it's a whole other plethora of things. But the one person that would come up to me and say, hey, I really enjoyed this song that you played. You have a soothing voice of this. And it took me a while to even believe people. Yeah. In a sense, too. I'm like, who told you to say that? Because, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, all right, see you later, weirdo, sort of thing. But it's moments like that, though, where it just kind of adds a little bit more distance to the destination I'm going.
Yeah. Oh, man. Good times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. But that flow state, that creative process, you really kind of get into that groove with Saul. Did you feel that anywhere else in your musical career, though, or was that something that was just very special in that moment, in that time?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I felt that, you know, anywhere else or with any other artists, and I haven't collaborated with any other artists for that long.
Yeah,
working with the Soul Academy was very special because we recorded an album in 4 days, and those guys, we worked so well together. You know, when they hit record, they got the take. When you said, hey, fix this, do this to the beat, they knew exactly what you're talking about. They'll change it. I'll make the sound like this. They'll make it sound like that. And but you know, it wasn't a very long time that we would record together. But with Soul, it was years, you know. And no, there's nothing to match that.
Yeah,
that was quite an experience. In a foreign country, you're living your dream. You're becoming the first to do something ever in the whole of history. It's like, it's pretty crazy feeling.
Absolutely, indeed, absolutely. Especially what comes out of Korea. I mean, with K-pop and just like the pool of talent and just culture of everything, and then to see what you guys have done, and what really showed me that you guys made an impact was that one photo I saw of your face on just looked like a skyscraper of some sort. It was just some sort of portrait. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, take me through that.
Shout out to Royal Dog. Royal Dog is an OG graffiti artist. Someone, I guess, commissioned him to do a piece. And so he chose to do a piece of me on the side of the building. It's like on the highway. I don't know, dude. Maybe it's like a 50-story building. I don't know. It's a pretty tall building.
Yeah, I would say just about.
And it's just the whole building is a mural of just me all the way down. And Yeah, when I saw that, actually, I saw it on his Instagram. He posted it on his Instagram. And then one day I was driving home, me, my wife, and we just sort of like sleeping on the bus. And I woke up and I saw this thing on the side of the highway. I was just like, that's how I saw it. The first and only time I saw it, because it was out in the countryside somewhere where he could get a building.
Yeah, and had no idea it was coming. Just zoom. You're like, whoa, that's my face.
Yeah, and then I was just like, whoa, it's pretty intense. But that was a good feeling. And yeah, it's things like that that make you kind of feel like, man, we're doing something. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have to do that, but
Why? Why did he do it though?
yeah, someone asked him to make the painting. So he gets commissioned to do like pieces. He did like a Rihanna piece. He did like a Biggie and Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he does like pieces wherever people commission him and get him to do murals.
Yeah.
Why he chose me? I don't know. Lucky.
You, Rihanna.
Yeah.
Man, you're up there, dude.
So it's nice. It's pretty nice. I think look up Royal Dog. He's got some famous pieces around. Even in LA, he's got some famous pieces. Yeah. Pretty good artist.
Yeah. Did you meet your wife in Korea?
Yeah. We met in South Korea 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was there right at the beginning of Part-Time Cook, somewhere around there.
That's awesome, man. How is that balance though between your creative endeavors, your work, and a relationship?
Man, it's difficult. If I'm honest with you, it's one of the reasons why when we moved to the States, I kind of fell back from music, because you really have to focus on one or the other. If I'm being honest, you can't be happily married and a successful musician doing both full speed. It's either you are sacrificing some of your personal life, or your personal life is helping you with your professional life, and that's how you get to spend time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so with my wife, Korea was fun, but it was also tough because we were having like 2 young kids. And sometimes I couldn't even be there for her in the way that she'd want me to. Sometimes I'd just be out and being a rock star, you know?
Yeah.
And moving back here, it was such a good opportunity for me to slow down and then think of what the priority is and focus on my family, you know?
So what brought you to the States from Korea?
COVID, man. COVID.
COVID.
Yeah, COVID. When COVID hit, so Korea was pretty good about COVID, like right away. They shut everything down. They were very urgent, let me say, urgent. And along with that came no touring, no shows. All the venues were closed. So basically, we were in South Korea paying rent. And that was it. I was like, no, let's go. So we came to the States. We're like, we're not going to keep paying rent here. We came to the US. We stayed with my wife's mom. Shout out Nana. We stayed with my wife's mom for about a few months. And then we kind of slowly started making our way in the big USA. You know, she's from here. So it was good to have a support system. Her mom, her stepmom, her cousins, her brothers, everyone was kind of there for us when we kind of came in here.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, you being a traveling man, you probably were up for it. It was just that conversation on the table of this is what's going on in Korea right now. Let's move to the States.
Man, in a week. We decided in a week we gotta go. And luckily for us, we left because the next week they had shutdowns in the US.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have been able to come back here for months.
That's what I was about to ask. I mean, especially during that time, you guys must have made it really quick.
Yeah, we made it. And they did the whole thing where they're canceling flights and no flights were leaving. So we were really, really lucky, you know?
That's huge.
Yeah, and so coming here, I stopped the music, but I never stopped being creative. And I didn't stop doing things that were rewarding in that sense. Started a job, got a job in a company as a trainer, but training public schools in my area here how to use technology for teaching. But I would also like mix music or audio recording, video editing. So like I'll do all these kind of tasks that I'd learned in part-time cooks. And so it was great.
Yeah, all the skills carrying over.
All the skills carried over. I could still do this music. I could still do this kind of audio stuff and video stuff. And so I haven't stopped and I haven't looked back. I'm an instructional designer now. That's the job I do for a living. And, you know, getting music back up and going again, I'm not sure, just because priorities are different now. But I still write music. I still record. I'm going to perform like next month, actually.
Where?
I'm going to perform with Brett at, man, he's not going to like that I don't know the name of the show. It's a surf market.
Okay, yeah, it's the surf swap.
Surf swap.
Yeah.
Surf swap. There we go. So,
shit, man, now I'm 100% coming to that now.
Yeah, he just asked me the other day to put up a set, so gotta put something together. And you know, I still get to do what I love.
Yeah.
It's just not the same full-on grind anymore. But it's in me and I'll never stop having that outlet, you know.
Well, that's what I'm happy to hear, because that's how I look at it. It's what relationship you want to have with it.
Yeah.
Do you want to be full speed ahead as well as you're full speed ahead with other responsibilities, which it kind of doesn't really work out, because you'll crash and you'll crash hard.
Yeah.
But the fact that this has been in you since childhood, this has been in you since birth. This is your family roots to be creative in expression as well. So it's a beautiful thing that not only that you still have, but you recognize, and how to kind of have the relationship with it too. Because I mean, how you even came to my radar, man. I mean, Chris was like, all Chris told me was, hey man, this is my friend Blessing from Korea. He's a great rapper. If he wants to come up on the mic, will you let him? I'm like, sure. Yeah, of course. That was it. I've never heard of you, never heard you play, never heard you perform, whatever. And you just said, hey, what's up, man? And I'm like, yeah, you want to come? Yeah, sure, whatever. And then you came up and crushed it.
That's at the Butcher Block?
Yeah. One of those just typical bar gigs that we're just jamming to a bunch of. Yeah.
That was a cool one, man.
But dude, that's the thing. The moment that your flow, your energy, the way you connected to the mic. I mean, it could have been. I mean, there's probably like 10 people. It could have been 10,000. It could have been 0 people. I mean, you still had it. That's where I'm like, something clicked in my head.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm freaking obsessed now.
Man, it was a good time. It was a good time. Thank you, man. And you know, now I think of what I do as a gift that I can impart to my kids. You know, I've got a 6-year-old son who loves messing around on the drums. He records himself. He plays a little piano, and it's them now. It's their time to like do the thing and live through it, and it's in their blood, you know.
Yeah.
My daughter, she is amazing. She also is just like sitting there, playing the drums, and now you're seeing them come up, and it's another chance for me to be a teacher and be creative and kind of work with them to grow their passion in whatever they want to do, right? So it's fun, man. It's fun.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, your journey with music has taken you all over the world. I mean, not only has given such a positive impact, but a meaningful impact and purpose too, as well. Do you feel that do you feel like you're finding your purpose or found your purpose with your creativity? I mean, your purpose has changed over the few years. I should say, between South Africa, Korea, and now the States, being with the family.
Yeah, you know, music has been a constant in my life, and I think that what it's done for me is it's always given me an outlet to express and let stuff out. I think my purpose, if I'm being honest, my purpose, I won't say it's changing, but I'm just constantly on a journey wherever life takes me. Some people have a calling. Some people feel like this is their calling where they've dedicated their life to. I don't think mine is like that. I don't think I've got this calling where there's this one thing I'm meant to be. I think what my purpose has been is to go and make an impact wherever I go. Like, even if I go to the Republic of Georgia right now, there are many families that I'm so close with that still remember me to this day, and I remember them and I love them in return. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, maybe my purpose is just like, as cheesy as it might sound, just making the world a better place. You know what I mean? Like, to be a blessing.
Yeah.
That's the only way I really love my name, because when my mom named me that, I get it. I'm just like, that's what my purpose is. To just make my mark, be a blessing, and just leave a good impact, you know, wherever I go. And so whether I'm doing that on the stage with music, whether I'm doing that in the classroom teaching, whether I'm doing that with my family, just be a blessing. Yeah.
Be a blessing. I love it.
Yeah. Be a blessing.
You have any other music that's coming out though? Do you have anything that's in the back pocket where like, I'm thinking about putting this out? So this is selfishly.
I've got music recorded. By putting it out though, I'm not quite sure yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got music recorded that I wanted to put out, but we'll see.
We'll see. We'll work on it, because I do want to collab with I do want to collab with you on that. But even the other day, or I felt like the other day, but a few weeks ago when we had breakfast, and that's when we talked, and you mentioned you made me think a lot about purpose and what I'm doing with my time, what am I doing with my art, and what am I doing with my craft, but also what am I doing with my voice as well. And it was really cool, because it's almost like a rat race, as I mean, talk about like cheesy terms. I mean, we're all kind of stuck in this rat race of either doing stuff for attention, or doing stuff for money, or doing stuff for whatever, rather than just doing stuff for what's going to be our fulfillment, to be the best that we can be, to enlighten other people for the best that they can be as well. So with that being said, this is something I like to ask everybody kind of on the tail end of what we're doing. If someone listened to this A to Z, just the whole thing, front to back, what is one thing from everything we talked about that you would like to kind of reinstate? Maybe a nice little tip. What is one takeaway? One major point? I mean, I feel like you really didn't hit the nail on the head to be a blessing, but
yeah, apart from that, we did talk a bit about keeping your own fire burning. And I think it's not selfish to do that. So if there's one thing that someone can listen to and take away, is that you have to take care of yourself. If there's something that you like doing, it's great that you can get involved in all these other things that people are doing. And often those things lift you up, because, the collective effort kind of does validate you, or get you there faster, or kind of you see growth. But don't stop doing that thing that's true to you, because you don't want to get lost in a sea of everyone else's ideas. You might be successful, but there's something to be said about your own struggle, your own endeavors to kind of figure it out. That's important. And that's something I don't want to forget. You know what I mean? Like, you always got to keep true to yourself. Some people, they call them selfish, the really successful people. They're selfish, but some people look at it like they just know what they want. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so to find the middle ground is good, but more on the side of taking care of yourself, because that's really the only way you can shine and be a blessing, or take care of other people. Is if you gotta figure out your own shit first, and make sure you take care of whatever's burning inside you, whatever you think your destiny is. Find it. Whatever it is, find it. And then do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Man, dude, I appreciate your time.
Man. Hey,
this is sick.
Fun. Thank you, Jacob.
Dude, my man. Thank you so much.
Dude, it's been so nice to sit down, actually. Had a good time talking about these stories. Had a good time thinking. I'm feeling very nostalgic. I'm feeling very, inspired,
Yeah.
Inspired to get into it. So thank you for this sit down, and thank you for just kind of having this. It's a small conversation, just a casual conversation, but really the impact is deep on me, because now I'm really thinking about the fact that this thing still burns in me, and onward we go.
Onward we go. You have a lot to give. The fact that you are a father teaching these things to your kids is incredible, and it's inspirational. But yeah, man, onward we go.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, we did it. Oh, nice one, bro. We did it. That was such a nice sit down, man.